Hi, this is a response to the Vinyl Vault's 500 plus subscribers contest. So the two questions were, what are your favourite live albums? And two, uh, favourite concert experiences. First off, favourite live albums. I mentioned this in another contest video. The Velvet Underground Live 69. Excellent live record. I'm not so big on live records, but this one's good because obviously the songs sort of evolve from the studio versions, and they really expand it out. There's sort of 9 minute versions of Ocean on there. Yeah, 10 minute version, 9 minute version of Heroin. Absolutely brilliant. So another one, Etta James rocks the house. Um, Excellent record, brilliant singer, and another person who was very good at doing live albums that sort of evolved greatly from the studio recordings was Frank Zappa. This is Roxy and Elsewhere, which is probably the best of all these sort of live releases. It was released back in 1974. Um, really like it, and there's one bit on there. I can't remember which track. It might be "Dummy Up" on the first side, where there's this mini skit in the about midway through where I think it was sort of, who is it? Frank Zappa and one of his band members. I'm trying to think which one. Uh, I'm not sure, but they're doing this skit where Frank Zappa makes this joke about smoking a college degree through through a gym sock, which made me just laugh. At the time I discovered that record, I just done a sort of master's degree, which was an absolute waste of money. I don't know why I'd done it. There was a recession going on, um, and I was bored, I suppose. But I did get to meet a lot of really cool people. What else have we got? Otis Redding, one of the greatest showmen ever. And there's two live albums in there. Live in Europe and Live at the Whiskey a Go Go. Both albums are absolutely brilliant. The guy just had so much energy. There's a really good documentary if you look on YouTube. It's called, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's something to do with Otis Redding in Europe or something like that. All these sort of these group of sort of southern soul musicians, sort of equal parts. I think half of them were white, but the majority of them were black. Well, not sure. There's quite a lot of white soul musicians, and there's blacks, and generally sort of outside of Stax Records, they were segregated. This was Tennessee in the '60s. Lots of sort of racial segregation, and they come to the UK in mainland Europe, and they're all gobsmacked that they can all hang out together. They can stay in the same hotels. Yeah, it's worth a watch. I think the BBC done it. What other stuff? Yeah, Nina Simone. This is a box set for women, the Nina Simone Phillips recordings, although it's on Verve. Yeah, there's one album in there. This is like a box set of about 7 albums she did, sort of beginning with this one up to High Priestess of Soul, Nina Simone in concert. Now this one's good because there's some real sort of surreal moments. It's really live albums should have. there's one track called Go Limp where Nina forgets the words. And Mississippi Goddamn, which is like such an amazing track, really starts out as a really sort of a happy, sort of jaunty tune. Then Nina Simone says this is a show tune for a show which hasn't been written yet. Uh, the the predominantly white audience laughs, and then it gets very darker because the song was written about Medgar Evers, who was shot in the back in his driveway by I can't remember the name of the bloke who shot him, but real hardline racist type, and it took him years to convict the guy. There was a film about it with Whoopi Goldberg in. I think it's called Ghosts of Mississippi. I'm not sure, but brilliant live album. What else have I got? Oh yeah, and yeah. Last but not least, probably one of the greatest live albums ever. Kick Out the Jams by MC5. Really great record. What more can I say? I mean, it's one of the few like live albums that really sort of puts you there. You know, a lot of live albums really sort of fail to do that. And they're saying about this band that they were absolutely brilliant live. Well, from listening to this, extremely noisy for the time. I think only the Stooges came close. Amazing. But yeah, one last thing, concert experiences. Now, I've got two actually. I'm not a big Flaming Lips fan, but back in 2003 I saw them play live at the Hammersmith Odeon, and that gig was absolutely, just off the wall, just amazing. They just throw big balloons into the crowd. Everybody just hit them about. Yeah, it was Hammersmith Apollo, where they recently had. Well, it's a sort of, I think it's called the Hammersmith. I'm not sure if it's called the Eventim Apollo now, but it's in Hammersmith. That was a really good gig, and even people who were pretty agnostic about the band were just blown away. And I think even Chris Martin was at that gig. Yeah. But the best one recently, I mean, I don't really listen to Flaming Lips anymore, but the best recent one was in Bristol about a year back, when I went to see Swans. I got on the guest list as Juju were in like the support act, and it was really strange because I went there and Juju, Jamie Stevens I think his name is, was just sat there playing his guitar, and it was very, very stripped back, and I didn't actually recognise any of the songs. It turns out they were sort of old sort of American folk songs, which is a bit surreal. But then Swans came on, and I just remembered that they play extremely loud, and I didn't have any earplugs. In the end, I ended up putting sort of earphones in my ears. That still didn't stop the damage, because I was stood right next to one of the amplifiers. But going to a Swans gig is like being sort of violently assaulted with sound. All the instruments are cranked up, and there's one moment where Michael Gira was sort of played one chord on it, and you just felt it. It's a surreal experience. Probably more fun in retrospect because they crank the heating up, and it's really crazy. But that was probably one of the best gigs I've seen in recent years. That and the Meat Puppets probably. And I also another one I also liked, the last gig experience I think that really blew me away was watching Frank Turner's hardcore band Mongol Horde play. Um, it it wasn't something I was expecting. I wasn't expecting it to be enjoyable. Uh, there there's like three acts on. There's two support acts. One of them was a local sort of act called Oxygen Thief. Who they weren't bad. Um, and then there was a sort of a sludge metal band, which the drummer from Mongol Horde, who I think he might have been in Frank Turner's band Million Dead, was playing in. So when sort of Mongol Horde came on, um, the place just went crazy. There was a bloody mosh pit. I was getting pushed about, and I went on my own because it was sort of a very last minute kind of thing. It was a boring Sunday. I didn't have nothing to do. But actually, I was interviewing Oxygen Thief, but that was probably the last gig I thoroughly enjoyed. And I mean, I've actually interviewed Frank Turner before. Um, I think it must have been about 2 or 3 years ago before he really, really started to make it big. But yeah, that's I can't think of any other sort of really good gig experiences. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you and goodbye.